Hello everybody, Intensive MX Gaming here, and today we're going to be doing a Creepypasta reading. Now I haven't done one of these at all, never really done this, and I tend to stumble over my words sometimes, so just keep that in mind. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, sit back, relax, and listen to me read, I guess. If you want, I don't know. It's really difficult to think, but what is left to do? I'm going to be erased. I'm going to be erased. I can feel my thoughts slipping from me like sand between fingers. I can't grasp at them. But the harder I try, the more difficult they are to keep. So like this, I will try my best to think of everything I can think of. Everything that led to this. 8. I was always different. Some of my earliest memories are of my mama comforting me from yet another nightmare. I remember always asking her why I had so many of these dreams in which I die in various grotesque ways. The mess in my dreams didn't always look like me. Sometimes they were girls, sometimes boys, sometimes neither, or both. Sometimes older, sometimes younger, sometimes taller or shorter. Some had different hair or eyes, or lacked the freckles that my mama had said made me unique. But they were always still distinctly me. Some died in car wrecks, some drowned, some starved to death, some were killed by thieves, and some died in wars. Some bled out slowly in an alleyway as the heavens mourned their loss, while yet others went quickly in their sleep. My mom has always insisted I had the nightmares because I am special. Yeah, right. I've always thought I'm just me. I'm not especially tall, or handsome, or smart, or strong. I've never had any real friends. Even in fact, I was never exactly well received by my peers. I remember, still, when I began in school, some of the other children with older siblings telling stories that only made me have more nightmares. It was then that I began to have a hint of just how special I am, or was. I learned that those nightmares of mine, everyone has them. Our reality, or dimension, or world, or whatever you want to call it, is a bridge between all other realities. It's not uncommon knowledge. There's a day once a year when we can see other versions of ourselves for 6 hours starting at sunset. I like the versions of myself where I'm taller and have longer hair, although I never wear my own long hair. They walk around, though, through our world like ghosts, interacting with ghost objects only present in their own worlds. It's useless to try to talk to them. Well, most of them anyway. They can't see or hear us, save the rare few who can. When I was very little, I experienced my first viewing. Well, I suppose babies can see their other selves too, but it takes a certain amount of brain development to really understand what's going on. Or maybe it's just because I can't remember that far back. I remember sort of being very confused at first, but excited. I wandered away from my mother, following the ghostly figures that wouldn't answer to my demand for their attention. Eventually, I saw a sad, or maybe tired-looking girl. She was skinny, but tall, and had long hair, the same copper color and the same texture as mine. Her hair was pulled back into a loose ponytail, and she wore clothes that looked like they fit once. But that she had recently malnourished. Overall, she looked nothing like me, but I knew, somehow, instinctually, that she was me. I walked towards her. She stared at the stars for a long time in silence before turning to me. She looked me right in the eyes and started speaking in language I didn't recognize. After noticing my confusion, she looked around and spoke to me in my native French. She smiled gently and said only one thing. I'm sorry it couldn't be me. I didn't know what she meant, but it made me want to cry. She was crying too. The rest of it is a bit of a blur. My mom found me and brought me home. As loving as my mom was, that was one thing she refused to ever talk about. I'm rambling. These nightmares, those are visions of ourselves dying. They say whenever you narrowly avoid death in this world, one of your doppelgangers die. Then you dream about it. They say it's a gift from God to our world to make us appreciate our lives more, but it's only really ever made me hate mine. If there is a God, I bet it was an experiment, not a gift. I was cool in elementary school. The girls liked my copper hair and freckles, and the boys thought I was edgy because of how many nightmares I had. I didn't really understand it, but they thought it was cool. And I wore the bags under my eyes as medals of honor. Each sleepless night a testament of how many times I nearly died but hadn't. In middle school, no one cared. Everyone was into something different. I faded into obscurity. By then, I had figured out the reason why it is cool to have so many nightmares. Other than some severe illness that I probably obviously didn't have, the most obvious reason for someone to have so many of the nightmares is that someone is trying to assassinate them, which equates to importance. By this time, too, oh dear Lord, I had experienced many more viewings, and seeing many more things. I never saw the one from my childhood again, although I have sort of a vague idea, not a quite fully formed memory, of what did happen to her. I remember, as though I was her, meeting her fiance and talking, and then she walked outside to meet her fate. The rest is a blur. But she was ripped apart by some kind of dog in the alley behind her home. I remember that she was an artist. After my first year of high school, my mom and I moved far away, far enough that everyone what is that? They misspelled a word, sorry. Doted on my accent. And that I had to speak English instead of French. But not far enough that would cross an ocean. I didn't question why we had to move. My life had been growing boring. Monotonous. The same people and the same things all the time. The only thing that changed was the frequency of the nightmares. I began having them more frequently after I turned 16, and as it was not cool again to have them, as it was, I ran my mouth at first. I was cool, and I had a lot of friends. I heard the name KK, which I hadn't heard used on me in years. Then people stopped believing me. There's no way, not every night. How important do you think you are? No one's going to try that hard to kill a loser ginger like you. So I stopped talking about it and I lost my friends. My mom worried about me, as good mothers do. But I kept my grades up, so she never worried too much. When I was 17, on the night of viewing, I wandered outside to walk through the streets and pretend I was a ghost, like the other versions of me. By then, the nightmares had consumed so much of my life. I had never experienced love, never been to a party, never done anything I wanted. If only for a moment, to pretend like none of it was real. None of this was a waste, including my own self. As I wandered, I noticed how few of me were left. I wasn't as surprised as I should have been. That night, I saw some kind of creature. Thinking back, I should have told someone. Told my mom. Maybe someone could have done something. Maybe. Could have done something. Spent more time with my mom. Just something. No. No one could have done anything about it but me. In this state, I am certain of that now. Some strange sense of certainty, almost like all-knowingness, seems to pervade me. Almost like I'm cracked, and the all-knowingness is flowing through those cracks. Where was I? The creature came to me, spoke to me. It said it was going to kill me. It said it was going to kill every me out there until it got the right one. It apologized. It said it would rather not have to go through all the trouble or cause that much trouble for me. But it had to. That it had to. It said that it had to. That it was for everyone's sake. That it needed to kill the right me in time, whatever the cost. That it would be all over by the time I turned 18. One way or another. I took no heed of the creature's warning, although I think it was less of a warning and more of a declaration of intent. Still, I didn't care. I just went about my life, not thinking of anything of it. Throughout the next several months or so, I had more and more nightmares, up of 5 a night. At night, I stopped having dreams in which I'd have a lover on my arm, and we'd be sitting close together on a porch swing with the sun setting behind us entirely. I started to go mad. I started skipping school. I started writing poetry. I started shouting at people a lot and getting into various forms of trouble, mostly fights. None of that really felt like me, though I had started listening to punk music way too loud. Eventually, I stopped sleeping altogether. I found that if I went for a few days without sleep first, I would be too tired to remember the nightmares when they came. I started going back to school. My grades weren't the best they'd seen. Since I never slept and had difficulty paying attention in class, I doodled on all my assignments and wrote short little poems in the margins. One of my teachers noticed. She asked me to write a poem for an upcoming Young Writers Contest. I submitted to her a poem entitled Running. About a week later, I got a notice saying I'd placed tortured souls really do write the best poetry. I suppose it was only second place, but still, I don't think my mom had ever been so proud of me. I don't think it was that good, but hey, who am I? People are fickle things, and as soon as things started seemingly going my way again, everyone forgot entirely to hate me. They started swarming me again. I had friends again. People helped me along in classes I slept through, although no one ever questioned me as to why I slept through all my classes. It seemed so tired all the time. No one ever actually cared, is all. But that was never really important to me. I didn't want friends. I wanted the nightmares to stop. Weeks passed, nothing changed. Nothing ever changes. It came time to read the poem in front of the school and accept my prize. My mom dressed me in a nice black suit with a black tie and green and white stripes. I walked in for the ceremony and fell asleep immediately after arriving and sitting down. I placed second in my class. They called my name twice before the person sitting next to me managed to nudge me awake. I dreamt of black. I walked up on the stage, stumbling and stepping all over myself the whole way. I handed the nice 2-page long printout of the poem I had originally scribbled on a scrap piece of paper that was supposed to be for calculus notes. The man from the contest read aloud one final time my name and submission title. K quick. With his entry, running. I coughed once, then stood and looked out over the crowd. My tired eyes not really taking anything in, I started reading from the sheet without any further ado. Running away from your troubles is like matches and wood, 'cause it burns like sun when it sets in your eyes. And it falls through the cracks like water through a sieve, like tears through the lines of your skin. And it hurts like needles in all the wrong places, like cuts under salt burn in the light, and you just want to run more, like you're out of breath, but it hurts just right. Like when you're addicted, you can't stop now, and it sounds like bones in a fire crackling away, like birds singing songs in the dead of night, 'cause it's wrong, like a right that just wants to be heard, 'cause running never saved anyone, but it made the pain duller, like nasty medicine, yet. KBK. Huh. I dropped the mic and let the paper flutter to the ground. I lost the ground under my feet, and the next thing I knew, I had managed to land on my ass and was